All right, good. Yes, again, thank you very much. And my name is Florian, as Pierre mentioned. And thanks for joining my presentation about data and content through the lens of responsible AI after this lunch session. Hope you're not going to sleep in the next 30 minutes. And yes, I'm very proud to present this topic to you today and to give you a little bit of context. I'm coming from Nenna, and Nenna exists since beginning of the year, which I co-founded with three other guys. And we try to make AI safe so that companies can use the full potential of the technology without having to worry about the loss about sensitive data or intellectual property. And I guess this kind of topic, which we are confronted with, allows me to tell you a little bit about responsible AI today. So let's start into that. I brought to you a little outline. So we're going to talk about the state of AI, which should give you an overview where we are currently at. And this also includes some advancements and where the industry states are currently at. And then we will dive into the responsible AI framework and talking about AI and data privacy. We are looking at the copyright and how to use data for AI training. We're looking also into the topic of AI hallucinations and misinformation. What is related to that into that topic, and last but not least, we are diving a little bit into the topic of the EU AI Act, which everyone is confronted with in the next few years. And then we wrap this up, and then afterwards we have, I guess, a little bit time to ask some questions. So let's get into that. You may be familiar with that kind of theory of innovation cycles, which Joseph Schumpeter introduced in the 1940s. And if we look at that again, then we see that the innovation cycles are getting shorter, and that we have been in a new sixth innovation since the last 4 to 5 years. And the phase of digital and social networks a little bit slowing down, ebbing away, and the new AI phase is rising up more quickly, a little bit depending on in which industry you're working in. But this time is now rising up. And what we can see is that adopting of AI technology is evolving very fast. So one example is, you can see it on the left-hand side, ChatGPT was the fastest adopted AI software solution with 100 million users within 2 months. I guess this is insane compared to the other solutions that you may be familiar with. And you might ask yourself, why is that so? And this is because of the adaptation of the technology is also not only going into the private sphere, it's also used by employees in companies because they introducing that technology in their daily routine. And for example, 63% of software developers using AI in their daily work. And maybe you recognized Causal as a new AI tool some days or weeks ago. It's really insane what these solutions can do for you. And within those few years, language models have been progressed significantly to the ability to understand and respond to complex queries. This is an example which I brought to you today is where you see kind of the evolvement of those AI technology from 2019 to 2023. And you can see that when we started there, the response of a prompt was incorrect at GPT-2, and it gets more and more advanced, and the explanation about that prompt gets more nuanced and detailed, which shows you these models yeah, increasingly sophisticated and can handle sophisticated tasks, more specialized. And some days ago, we reached another level of development. OpenAI released the O1 model, which they kind of introduced it very good in reasoning and calculation and programming. And they say, maybe it's a little bit marketing, but these kind of models reaching now the kind of PhD level. So it's very, very interesting to see. But if we focus not only on text, for example, we can see this development kind of also in images. On the left-hand side, you can see these developments from 2014 to 2018. So this was also kind of a very interesting progress and a little bit scary. But on the right-hand side, you see a development of AI models, within 1.5 years. So the speed of AI development is really fast, and the growth is kind of exponentially. And this also in a very remarkable short period of time. And if you see this like a very good example, you may watch video examples. And you can see that is a video beginning in 2023. So 1.5 years ago. It's kind of funny. Oh, that's hot. That's hot. And we look at the right-hand side. This is Sora from OpenAI. This was released earlier this year. And if you compare that, you can see this impressive video example. And now you cannot differentiate, is this a real example or not? And I generated one. So this kind of quality has taken on. But the question that may arise is, how is this even possible? And we need to go into that in a more technical way. So you have, on the one hand, the technical innovations. So you have these neural networks and transformer architecture. So I will explain it a little bit to you. So the neural network is the foundation of AI as a deep neural network. And it can, for example, allowing to perform different tasks, image generation, language understanding, and video creation. And on the other hand, the transformer architecture, also known as GPT, so generative pre-trained transformer, is a game changer in that way that allows you to process a large amount of data sequentially, and you can learn and capture relations between elements in sequences. And this is the technological basis where we started from. And if you add another layer, the data layer, then you see that all these models and the data availability is a very, very important part of that process, because AI models are now trained on a vast data set, millions and billions of images, text, content, and so on and so forth. And this is kind of the baseline of the data content that's in those models. And nowadays we are facing another step in those involvements, because data is not enough, or the internet data is not enough. You need to have more data, so you need to have those usage data. What OpenAI and other model providers are doing, they try to collect data from you when you're entering ChatGPT or other solutions with a free account, because you have to opt out that they use those data for training. And they learn based on that usage data and metadata to improve their products. And what they are now looking for is to improve that also in another dimension, because also usage data is not enough. they're also looking for company data. And that's the reason why they kind of approach companies doing partnerships and trying to kind of incorporate their data as well, because they want to learn from their processes, because the real value exists in those processes. So we have the architectural baseline, we do have the data, and the third major important thing is you have the computing. So all these kind of complex modeling and computational power needs to be done, and kind of these hardware accelerators like NVIDIA can perform massive parallel computations based on their GPUs. And you may recognize this as the NVIDIA stocks raised up to the moon, that this kind of technology is very important for those computation and those kind of results that we see within those AI development. But now we understand that all these developments are based on the technique, the data, and the kind of computational performance. But we want to have a look into that from an angle that we look at this kind of development from a responsible AI perspective. Because what we see is that AI is already transforming industries and also the society. And with this kind of growth, ethical dilemmas, privacy concerns, and also misinformation arises in that space. And we try to cover that within a special framework. And this is the responsible AI framework. So this is a holistic approach into AI development focused on ethics, fairness, transparency, and accountability. And the central idea is that responsible AI is ensuring AI systems are designed and operated with human values, ethics, and social norms. So that AI benefits society while minimizing risks. And if I just pick some of them, then we're talking about privacy, for example. AI systems must respect user privacy, or that personal data is not collected. They need to incorporate security measurements, for example, against malicious attacks or misuse. And they also need to incorporate inclusiveness, for example. So they should be designed to serve diverse populations and avoid biases, for example. So this is very, very important to have a look from. And what we see outside this kind of responsible AI framework is that many companies are putting those marketing statements on their website, but it's really hard to cover all of these principles in their daily developments and also into different regulational frameworks. And it could be that those companies kind of ignore these responsible AI approach and cannot take this into account in a way that it should be. And this results in kind of OpenAI and Google DeepMind work as one of industry risks in open letters, or you see kind of privacy concerns surrounding AI, including personal data. Maybe AI is reinforcing bias in equality because based on the data, or they are forced and sued kind of based on copyright that's not incorporated in their training model. So we see a lot of issues and issues that not are incorporated in their development. And if you look at this from another point of view, then we need to look at this from a GDPR perspective. Because GDPR, most likely here in Germany and EU, afterwards then in the EU AI Act, is very important based on the regulation that we confronted with. And therefore, these kind of companies do have problems kind of to incorporate also GDPR compliant regulations. So, for example, Meta trained their Llama model with publicly available data since 2007. And another thing is, so if you look at the right to be forgotten, for example, it's very difficult to exclude data which once was trained in those AI models and to get rid of it. And last but not least, you have those increased territorial scope. So you need to make sure that no data leaves the EU or Germany, for example. And all these providers do have problems to kind of come up with that solution for that. And we now move on from a responsible AI perspective to a GDPR perspective, now to a copyright perspective. Then we see that copyright in data usage in AI training is a very critical point. So from a perspective of those model providers, you do have two sides of a medal. So you have, on the one hand side, the fair use policy and the copyright infringements. And you now can argue that those kind of fair use policies may benefit such a model, AI models, because they could train a large data set and help the greater public, for example, for healthcare diagnostics or educational tools. So public benefit is one of the statements that you can use for those fair use policy. On the other hand, maybe if you want to talk about the transformative use of AI, this involves as well kind of a new concept, and this transformative use of those technology qualifies those kind of models as a fair use and allows them to use kind of data or copyrighted information to use them for their work. And they also kind of claim it that they use it for non-commercial research. Or another aspect is that the kind of models are so large and they minimize copying of small data sets so that the amount of company or personal related data compared to the amount of data that they collect is very minimized. And on the other hand, you see the kind of arguments from the copyright perspective. So you have those unauthorized use, so scraping of copyrighted materials for AI needs to be explicit permissioned, and that was not the case in the past. So all these providers scrape data without authorization. And for example, they also claim that it's derivative work. So on copyrighted content, the model, for example, produces works based on the original material, and these kind of copyright holders exclusively have those rights to those derivative works, and the content that is created based on that should be permissioned as well. So a very confronted state currently, and what we see is that companies are now in that phase, move fast and break things. So they're trying to do those kind of use this fair use policy to move ahead, and then regulation comes afterwards. From another perspective, you see as well those kind of claims that certain providers collaborate with AI model owners like OpenAI. And on the other hand, you see those kind of claims and suits against those model providers. And today is that with these partnerships, kind of the companies try to source legal data yeah, kind of give those partners give those partnerships a profit from that, like a share model. And on the other hand, you see a lot of claims coming up, and today is kind of in a gray space where those kind of developments are in, and you currently not see how this kind of evolves. And the ideal path would be that you have a kind of middle ground where you have fueled this kind of by a fair use policy, and this is well defined, and you can work kind of within a partnership framework, licensing within respect of the copyright laws. So you combine both licensing content and train based on that, so you don't sue that copyright infringements. And if we look at hallucinations as a effect from AI generation, then we need to go a little bit deeper, because hallucination and misinformation is one of the main critics of those kind of models and have the most effect in daily work. And therefore, you need to understand how that works. And it's very important to understand that such AI models lack of understanding. So they were trained on a large amount of data, articles and books and so ever. And the only thing that they learned is to recognize pattern in the data, and allowing to respond to those input. But they're not able to understand how we are humans understand, for example, content or text. And in that way, that lead those generations sometimes with incorrect surroundings, and they try to represent fabricated data or information. And this is also based on training limitations. This is also on overgeneralization. So, for example, if you have very specific questions to those models, you may get false information because they try to generalize insights and pattern in that way. And I also brought you some examples how hallucination and misinformation can occur. For example, you may heard about these kind of lawyer that used and cited fake cases. You see that complete AI fake news sites will be published and generating fake stories. And also AI will be used for scientific studies. And this is also a problem that occurs over time. And if you look at audio, it's very, very complex topic, because to identify hallucinations and misinformation is very difficult. And if you listen to Joe,
Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
So this is completely fake and AI generated.
We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
So this is completely AI generated. And there is also another thing coming up. Google just announced Notebook LLM, which allows you to input kind of meeting notes or documents, and they generate podcasts out of it. So discussing different topics or a topic from different angles. And you won't be able to detect hallucinations within those within
bunch of malarkey.
within those podcasts. So it's very, very difficult to understand and to detect those hallucinations and misinformations. And on the other hand, you might have seen this as well in video content.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality?
I guess this is also a very good example to see how real those kind of AI video generation looks like today. And this also confronts us to really understand, okay, is this real? Is this a real video or is this fake? And if you watch as well as those pictures, you might recognize that is AI involved, but maybe on the top of it, I wouldn't say maybe it's a bad photographer who took that picture, but it is also AI generated. So these are very scary developments, and you need to incorporate, or we need to incorporate responsible AI into our daily work, kind of to find out and to regulate those kind of developments better. And if we look at the implications on data and content, then we see kind of the quality, integrity of data. So hallucinations can degenerate the quality of data sets, making it difficult to distinguish between accurate and fabricated AI content. So this is one result. It can be challenging to see authenticity in those content. So also within digital content, leading to a crisis of trust, for example. For example, if you're dealing with product content, or if you're creating also deep documentation about products, whatever, then it's very important to be authentic and also to show that to customers. It can also burden and increase the content moderation. So if you're thinking about integrating AI as a solution for example, customer support in your organization, then content moderation is a very complex task, and it's resource incentive, and it comes with a amount of complexity. You have also these kind of risk of legal repercussions. So using AI to generate inaccurate content, for example, can lead to ethical concerns. Or the last point is that if you create content that can be biased, and you need to have attention on that as well. And then there are ways to solve that. So you kind of think about AI content detector. So OpenAI also developed a AI classificator, which they not released, but there is some work behind which tries to kind of have semantic knowledge about AI content if they will be generated. You can use kind of labeling AI images. Meta is doing that. You can also enforce better model training. You can introduce kind of the human in the loop for human oversight, or you can try to train or educate your employees or colleagues about those developments to be aware of that. So there are ways to solve it, or you can do it as Taylor Swift has done it. There was a AI-generated poster. Taylor wants you to vote for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump also published that in his kind of Twitter or social truth account, And in the last debate of Trump and Harris afterwards, Taylor Swift saw this debate and posted that, I guess, Instagram a post, and where she said or decided to react on that misinformation, and the simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth, she said. So you can use this also from a personal perspective or from a company perspective to react on that. So this is also a possibility. And last but not least, it's very difficult to come from Taylor Swift to the EU AI Act, but I try it. So this is something ahead of us, and let me show or explain you just in 2 minutes what this kind of incorporates. Because the EU AI Act is kind of the most restrictive AI Act that you may recognize out there. And this was kind of developed from a risk-based approach to regulate AI. And it is categorized AI, or it will categorize AI in 4 different levels. So unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal risk. And each of these categories, of course, have different requirements and obligations. Sorry. And to give you just one small example, the unacceptable risk, for example, is everything that's related to people's safety or livelihoods. And this needs to be kind of restricted very fast. This is also based on social scoring systems. The high-risk AI system, it's more like from an individual and society perspective. So it's based on critical infrastructure, employment, education. So if you have also a scoring system there, for example, for hiring, that may be a high-risk system. A more limited risk system is where chatbots are involved, for example, and a minimal risk system is kind of spam filters or video games where the regulatory requirements are at a minimum state. And for example, classifications for the UA could be content moderation and filtering in high-risk systems, data-driven decision-making, as I mentioned, media and news generation because of the broad reach, limited risk systems, maybe AI-generated content, content personalization, maybe a limited risk system, a classification, and minimal risk system, maybe non-critical content or spam filtering. So, in a conclusion and some few takeaways, so responsible AI is a framework and that needs to be used, and emphasizing privacy, transparency, inclusivity, and also in combination with the GDPR. And it's very important kind of that you balancing innovation with regulation. Sometimes in the European Union and with the GDPR, it's kind of over-regulated because you need to enforce innovation to come up with new products, new ideas, new business models. So maybe there is a little bit space towards innovation. And from a copyright and data use perspective, the ideal approach is kind of to use copyrighted data for AI training, so you're not forcing to be kind of getting infringed, or you're respecting the property rights and etc. So I guess that's it. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Florian.